A society is not measured by the height of its towers, the wealth of its cities, or the armies at its gates. It is measured by its justice, by how it treats the guilty when the world cries for blood, by whether it answers cruelty with cruelty or strength with mercy. For when the state kills, it does not erase the crime. It writes a new one in its own name. The death penalty is not just law. It is a mirror. It reflects our anger, our fear, our thirst for justice. But it also asks a haunting question. When justice and killing walk hand in hand, do we lose a piece of our humanity? Today, over 50 countries still practice the death penalty. From the United States to China, Iran to Saudi Arabia, thousands are executed every single year. Some are guilty of horrific crimes. Others, later proven innocent, were not guilty at all. And yet, the question remains as alive as it was centuries ago. Is the death penalty morally justified? Or is it simply humanity's most dangerous illusion of justice? For thousands of years, justice was seen as balance. If someone took a life, they owed a life. This idea is written in the Code of Hammurabi, in the Bible, in ancient laws across civilizations. An eye for an eye. Philosopher Immanuel Kant carried this forward. He argued that justice demands the death penalty for murder, not as revenge but as moral order. To Kant, sparing a murderer's life was itself an injustice. And many today still feel the same. Imagine this. A man brutally murders a child. He shows no remorse. He laughs in court. Should he be allowed to live even behind bars? For many families, execution feels like the only true justice. That's why in the US, polls often show that a majority of people still support capital punishment in extreme cases. But here's the paradox. Justice is not the same as revenge. If justice is balance, then perhaps the death penalty fits. But if justice is fairness, equality, and moral integrity, then killing in response to killing begins to look less like balance and more like imitation. The second argument is about protection. The logic is simple. If criminals know they could be executed, won't they avoid murder? But research tells a very different story. According to a 2009 study by the U.S. National Research Council, there is no credible evidence that the death penalty deters murder better than life imprisonment. And here's something shocking. In the United States, states that have the death penalty often have higher murder rates than states without it. Take Texas, the state that executes more people than any other. Its homicide rate has consistently been higher than states like New York, where the death penalty is banned. Meanwhile, countries like Norway, which hasn't executed anyone since 1977, have some of the lowest homicide rates in the world. Why? Because deterrence doesn't come from the fear of death. It comes from social conditions, community safety, and the certainty of being caught. And here's the darker twist. Some criminologists suggest that executions may even encourage violence. By showing that the state uses killing as punishment, society normalizes killing as a way of solving problems. So ask yourself, if the death penalty does not truly protect us, then what purpose does it serve? Now we arrive at the heart of the debate: morality. The United Nations and groups like Amnesty International call the death penalty the ultimate denial of human rights. Why? Because it violates the most fundamental right of all, the right to life. Modern societies have abandoned punishments we once saw as normal: public executions, torture, whipping. We now call them barbaric. And yet, the death penalty lingers, often hidden, behind courtroom walls. But morality is not only about cruelty. It is also about certainty. If someone is imprisoned for life and later proven innocent, we can set them free. If they are executed, there is no second chance. This is not just theory. It has happened. Since 1973, over 190 people in the United States who were sentenced to death have later been exonerated, cleared of all charges. That means for every 9 people executed, 1 innocent person was almost killed. Think of Anthony Ray Hinton. He spent 30 years on Alabama's death row for murders he did not commit. Poor and black, he could not afford proper defense. Decades later, with new evidence, he was freed. When he walked out, he said, "The sun does shine." But he also said, "I lost 30 years for something I didn't do, and they were going to kill me for it." Now imagine if the system had been a little faster. He would not have lived to tell his story. That is not justice. That is tragedy. And finally, we face a harsh reality. The death penalty is not applied equally. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, defendants accused of killing white victims are far more likely to receive the death penalty than those accused of killing black victims. Wealth also plays a role. Those who can afford top lawyers often avoid execution. The poor, who rely on overworked public defenders, face much greater risk. Consider Cameron Todd Willingham. In Texas, he was executed in 2004 for allegedly setting a fire that killed his 3 children. Later, independent experts concluded that the fire was likely accidental, and the evidence used to convict him was deeply flawed. Yet he was already dead. Now ask yourself, if the system is capable of executing innocent people, and if that risk falls hardest on the poor and marginalized, can it ever be morally justified? And this inequality is not limited to America. In countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia, executions are sometimes carried out for crimes like drug possession or even political dissent. In China, thousands are executed each year, but the real number is a state secret. So the problem is not only whether the death penalty is moral in theory, but whether it can ever be applied fairly in practice. So where does this leave us? On one side, the death penalty promises justice, balance, and closure. On the other, it raises questions of fairness, effectiveness, and morality. But here's the practical truth. Justice is not only about punishing the guilty. It is also about protecting the innocent. And if the death penalty risks executing even one innocent life, if it fails to deter crime better than imprisonment, if it falls hardest on the poor and marginalized, then perhaps the cost is too great. A society does not prove its strength by how harshly it punishes, but by how wisely it protects. So now I'll leave the question with you. Is the death penalty truly justice, or is it simply revenge wearing the mask of law? Does it protect society, or does it slowly strip away our humanity one execution at a time? What do you think? Should any society have the power to decide who lives and who dies? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's make this a conversation worth having. And if this video made you think, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone you know. Because sometimes the questions we ask matter more than the answers we give. Justice is not found in the echo of revenge. It is not proven by the swing of a blade or the click of a switch. Justice is proven when we rise above the violence we condemn. When we choose to protect life, even when life has been taken. So the real question is not, do they deserve to die? But rather, do we deserve to kill?